My name is Margot Sinclair, and I'm 32 years old. Right now, I'm standing alone outside the auditorium in my doctoral regalia, staring at my phone with trembling hands. The text from Mom just came through. "Sweetie, we can't make it. Your brother's pool party got moved to today. You understand, right? 8 years of sacrifice. Countless sleepless nights in the lab. Student loans that could buy a house in the suburbs. My parents chose chlorinated water and beer pong over my doctorate ceremony. The worst part? I can see them posting Instagram stories from the party in real time, their smiling faces glowing under string lights while my achievement dies in silence. Before we dive into this story, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that like button so I know I'm not alone. Subscribe because this story gets wild, and trust me, you'll want to hear how this plays out. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. Growing up in suburban Connecticut, I learned early that love in my family came with conditions, and I never quite met them. My brother Carson is 2 years younger than me, but from the moment he could walk, he walked on water as far as my parents were concerned. I remember being 14. Standing on stage at the state science fair with a first-place trophy in my hands, scanning the audience for their faces. They weren't there. They were at Carson's Little League game across town, watching him strike out 3 times and sitting on the bench the rest of the afternoon. When I got home that night with my trophy, Dad glanced up from the TV and said, "That's nice, honey," before turning back to his show. My straight-A report cards earned a brief nod of acknowledgement, filed away in a drawer somewhere with the utility bills. Carson's B- in gym class warranted a celebration dinner at his favorite steakhouse, complete with a congratulatory cake. The pattern continued through high school and into college. I received acceptance letters from prestigious universities with full academic scholarships, achievements I'd worked myself raw to earn. My parents responded with practical concerns about how far away those schools were and whether I really needed to go somewhere so fancy. I chose the state university to keep the peace, paid for entirely by my National Merit Scholarship and academic grants. Carson, who barely graduated high school with a 2.1 GPA, got accepted to a private university that cost $80,000 in tuition alone. My parents paid every penny without hesitation, calling it an investment in his future. When I pointed out the disparity, Mom patted my hand and said, "You've always been so independent, Margot. Carson needs more support. You understand." I wanted to scream that I needed support too, that independence wasn't a choice but a survival mechanism I'd developed because no one was coming to save me. But I swallowed those words like I swallowed everything else. Their justification became a mantra I heard throughout my 20s. Carson needs more help. You're so capable on your own. He's more sensitive. The subtext was clear. My success came easily and therefore didn't deserve celebration, while Carson's struggles required the full mobilization of family resources. My undergraduate honors, my acceptance into a doctoral program with full funding, my master's degree earned with distinction, all of these milestones passed with minimal acknowledgement. Meanwhile, Carson's community college enrollment, his part-time job at a retail store, his promotion to shift supervisor, these were front-page news in the family newsletter. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was doing this for me, not for them. But deep down, in the part of myself I tried to ignore, I was still that 14-year-old girl holding a trophy and searching for her parents in the crowd. 6 months ago, everything changed. Or so I thought. My parents asked me to dinner, just the 3 of us, which was unusual enough to make me nervous. Over pasta at a quiet Italian restaurant, Dad cleared his throat and said something I'd waited my entire life to hear. "We know we haven't always been there for you, the way we should have been, but your doctoral graduation? Margot. We wouldn't miss it for the world." Mom reached across the table and took my hand, actual tears in her eyes. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart. Well, be in the front row, I promise. I'm already planning what to wear. I felt something crack open in my chest. Something I'd kept carefully locked away for decades. Maybe they finally saw me. Maybe all those years of achievement had finally added up to something in their eyes. Maybe I was enough. I bought them premium tickets to the ceremony, the expensive ones with the best view of the stage. I reserved hotel rooms at the nicest place near campus, the one I could barely afford but wanted them to feel special. I planned a celebration dinner at an upscale restaurant, made reservations for 4, including Carson because of course, he'd come too. It was family. Every week for 6 months, I mentioned the graduation. Every week, they confirmed. 2 days before the ceremony, I texted Mom a reminder. She responded with a photo of her outfit laid out on the bed. A elegant navy dress shed bought specifically for the occasion. Yesterday morning, she called to tell me she'd just finished ironing her special occasion dress and Dad had picked up his suit from the dry cleaners. Everything was perfect. Everything was finally happening. I was finally going to have what I'd spent 32 years craving. My parents' presence at my proudest moment. Graduation morning arrived, and I woke at 5 a.m., too excited to sleep. My studio apartment near campus was tiny, barely bigger than a closet, with walls I'd covered in research papers and academic articles that served as both decoration and motivation during the hardest years. I got ready with meticulous care, doing my hair in soft curls, applying makeup with a steady hand despite my nerves, pressing my doctoral robes until every wrinkle disappeared. At 7 a.m., I sent my parents a text, unable to contain my excitement. Can't wait to see you. Ceremony starts at 2 p.m. I love you both so much. I included a heart emoji, something I rarely did. But today felt like a day for breaking patterns. The message showed as delivered, but no response came. I told myself they were probably still asleep. It was early on a Saturday after all. By 9 a.m., the silence was starting to feel wrong. I called Mom's cell phone, and it went straight to voicemail. Called Dad's number, same result. A small knot of anxiety formed in my stomach, but I pushed it down. They were probably driving, or in the shower, or their phones were charging. There were a million innocent explanations. At 10:30 a.m., my phone finally rang with Mom's number. I answered so fast I nearly dropped it. Mom! I was getting worried. Her voice sounded strange, distracted, and I could hear noise in the background, people laughing and music playing. Honey, we need to talk about a small change of plans. The knot in my stomach pulled tighter. What kind of change? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated, and in that pause, I heard everything I needed to know. Carson decided last minute to have his pool party today instead of next weekend. He just got promoted to assistant manager at the car dealership and he's really excited about celebrating. He invited all his friends and they've already started arriving. The words didn't make sense at first. I stood there in my apartment, wearing my pressed doctoral robes, holding my phone to my ear, trying to process what she was saying. Mom, my graduation is today. You promised. You both promised. My voice cracked on the last word. She sighed, that particular sigh she reserved for when I was being difficult. I know, sweetie, and we feel terrible about the timing. But you know how sensitive Carson gets when we miss his important events. Has been planning this all week and he specifically asked us to be there. He needs our support. I felt something cold spreading through my chest. I've been planning this for 8 years. You've known about this date for 6 months. Carson's party is a last-minute pool party. This is my doctorate. Dad's voice came on the line. He must have taken the phone from Mom. Margot, you're 32 years old. You don't need us there like you're a child getting a kindergarten diploma. Carson is 29 and he still needs family support for his accomplishments. Besides, you'll have plenty of colleagues and professors there. Carson only has us. I begged. I'm not proud of it, but I begged. My voice broke as I pleaded with them to please just come for an hour. Just to see me walk across the stage. Just to be there for the moment they'd promised to witness. I've worked 8 years for this. Please don't do this to me. Please. Mom took the phone back, her voice tight with guilt but firm in her decision. Well, celebrate with you next weekend, I promise. Well, take you to a nice dinner at Olive Garden, make it really special. But today we need to be with your brother. Try to understand, Margot. This is important to him. Before I could respond, before I could find the words to explain that this was killing me, that their choice was breaking something fundamental inside me, they hung up. I sat down on my bed still wearing my regalia, watching my carefully applied mascara run down my face in black streams, feeling like the world had just confirmed my deepest fear. I would never be enough for them to choose me. Through blurred vision, I opened social media, engaging in the particular form of self-torture that only modern technology allows. Mom had posted 40 minutes earlier, right around the time she was probably working up the courage to call me. The photo showed her in a casual sundress, not the special occasion navy dress she'd promised, standing next to Dad who wore a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts. The caption read, "Getting ready for Carson's big pool party celebration. So proud of our boy." They were loading coolers into their car, cases of beer visible in the background, paper plates and plastic cups stacked high. The post already had dozens of likes and comments. "Best parents ever," someone wrote. "Carson is so lucky to have you," said another. Not one person asked where they'd be that afternoon. Not one person knew they were destroying their daughter. I drove to campus in a daze, parked in the lot near the auditorium, and watched other doctoral candidates arrive with their families. Parents carried flowers and cameras. Siblings held congratulatory balloons. Grandparents walked slowly but determinedly to witness this achievement. Everyone had someone. My thesis advisor, Dr. Patterson, found me standing alone near the entrance, my face probably still showing signs of crying despite my attempts to fix my makeup. "Margot, where's your family? I thought they were coming?" he asked with genuine concern. I manufactured a smile, the same smile I'd been perfecting for 32 years. "Family emergency came up last minute. They couldn't make it." He frowned, clearly wanting to say something, but I walked away before he could. The ceremony began and I took my seat with the other candidates. Each name called received cheers and applause from the audience, waves and blown kisses from proud families. When they called Dr. Margot Sinclair, there was only the polite applause of strangers who didn't know me. I walked across that stage, accepted my doctorate, smiled for the official photographer, and looked out at the audience where my parents should have been sitting. The seats were empty. After 8 years of sacrifice, after countless nights when ID questioned whether I could continue, after student loans that would take decades to repay, I stood there as Dr. Margot Sinclair with no one to share it with. I fought back tears through the entire ceremony, my throat tight with the effort of not breaking down in front of hundreds of people. After the ceremony ended, several colleagues invited me to their family celebrations, probably sensing something was wrong. I declined each invitation with the same practiced excuse, that I had plans already, that my family was waiting. The lies came easily after a lifetime of covering for them. I drove back to my apartment still wearing my regalia, because taking it off felt like admitting defeat, like acknowledging that the day was over and nothing special had happened. Once inside, I made the mistake of opening social media again. What I saw there pushed me from heartbreak into something darker. Mom had been posting live updates from the party all afternoon. There was a Facebook live stream of Carson doing cannonballs into the pool, water splashing everywhere, while my parents cheered from lawn chairs. An Instagram story showed Dad at the grill flipping burgers, the caption reading "Best day ever with our amazing son." A series of photos captured the party guests, the decorations, the cake that said, "Congratulations Carson on your promotion," in blue frosting. Carson had posted his own update, a photo with his arms around both parents, all three of them grinning at the camera. His caption read, "Thanks Mom and Dad for always being my biggest supporters. Couldn't have done it without you." The comments flooded in immediately. "Best parents ever. You're so blessed to have them. Family goals right here." I scrolled through them feeling physically sick. Not one person mentioned me. Not one person asked if anything else important was happening that day. My achievement, 8 years of my life, had been completely erased. In a moment of weakness or maybe desperation, I commented on Mom's post. "Thanks for missing my PhD graduation for this." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Within minutes, Mom deleted my comment. Just erased it like it never existed, like my pain was an embarrassment she needed to hide from her friends. My phone rang less than 5 minutes later. Carson's name appeared on the screen and I could hear immediately that he was drunk. "Why are you trying to ruin my day? You're so selfish, Margot. You always have to make everything about you and your stupid degrees. Nobody cares that you're Dr. Margot now. You're still a loser with no life and no friends. Get over yourself." He hung up before I could respond, leaving me staring at my phone in shock. I hadn't even spoken to him and somehow I was the villain in this story. My phone rang again almost immediately, but this time it was Mom. I answered expecting an apology, or at least some acknowledgement of what she'd done. Instead, her voice came through sharp with anger. "How dare you post that comment and embarrass me in front of my friends? I raised you better than to air family business publicly. Carson is very upset now. You've completely ruined his special day with your drama." The audacity of her words left me speechless for a moment. When I found my voice, it came out small and broken. "What about my special day, Mom? What about my graduation?" She scoffed. Actually scoffed at me. "You're being dramatic. It's just a ceremony, Margot. Carson's party was important for his mental health. Has been depressed about turning 30 soon and he needed this celebration to feel valued. You're too old to need your parents at every little thing. Grow up." Each word landed like a physical blow. "I needed you," I whispered, but she'd already hung up. The evening continued its descent into nightmare as more posts appeared. A video showed my parents presenting Carson with an expensive watch, the kind that costs several $1,000s. Mom's caption gushed, "For our hardworking son who deserves the world." I sat there holding my doctorate diploma, the one I'd earned through 8 years of brutal work, and realized my parents had completely forgotten to get me a graduation gift. Not a card, not flowers, nothing. At 11 p.m., I received a text from Dad. "Stop guilt-tripping your mother. Well, make it up to you. But right now you need to apologize to Carson for trying to ruin his day." I turned off my phone and sat in the darkness of my tiny apartment, alone with my achievement and the crushing weight of being unseen. The next morning, I woke to my phone vibrating non-stop with notifications. For a brief, foolish moment, I thought maybe my parents had realized what they'd done, that apologies were waiting. Instead, every single call and message was from Carson. His voicemails escalated in tone from annoyed to furious. "You made Mom cry all night. She couldn't even enjoy the end of the party because of your guilt trip. Dad says you're ungrateful after everything they've sacrificed for you. Call me back and apologize." There were 12 voicemails, each one more aggressive than the last. I deleted them all without listening to the end. A notification appeared for the family group chat, the one that included me, my parents, Carson, and my grandmother on Dad's side. It'd been muted in it for months, only checking it occasionally to stay loosely informed about family news. Now it was exploding with activity. Grandmother had written, "What's this I hear about Margot's graduation? Someone please explain what happened." Mom responded quickly, her version of events already sanitized. "Margot is being difficult about a scheduling conflict. We had a family commitment that couldn't be moved. She's chosen to make this into a bigger issue than it needs to be." Dad added, "Carson needed us yesterday. Margot is an adult who should understand that family means supporting each other. She clearly doesn't." Grandmother, bless her, wasn't buying it. "Her doctoral graduation? You missed her doctoral graduation? For what exactly?" Carson jumped in before my parents could respond. "Grandma, stay out of this. Margot is just jealous that I'm successful and getting recognition for once. She can't stand not being the center of attention. It'd been silent through all of this, just watching the messages appear, but grandmother's next message made me act. Margot, sweetheart, is this true? They missed your doctorate ceremony? I sent a photo, the one the university photographer had taken of me on stage in my regalia, accepting my diploma. The timestamp was visible. Below it, I typed, "This is what their family commitment cost." The group chat went silent for exactly 3 minutes. Then Mom's response appeared. "That's enough, Margot." The next notification I received was being removed from the group chat. My own mother had kicked me out of the family conversation rather than face what she'd done. An hour later, my phone rang with Aunt Diane's number. She's Mom's younger sister and we'd always had a cordial but distant relationship. "Your mother is absolutely furious with me for calling you. But I need to tell you something and I should have told you years ago." Her voice was shaking. "This isn't the first time. Margot, when you graduated undergrad summa cum laude, they skipped your ceremony to take Carson to his community college orientation. When you got accepted to your doctoral program with full funding, the celebration dinner your advisor arranged got canceled because Carson had lost his job that week and was feeling depressed. Your master's degree hooding ceremony 3 years ago? They were at Carson's boyfriend's birthday party. The information came at me too fast to process. How do you know all this?" I asked. Diane sighed heavily. "Because your mother would complain to me about having to juggle everyone's schedules. She'd say things like, 'Margot will understand, she always does, and Carson needs us more right now.' I convinced myself it wasn't my place to interfere, but after yesterday, I can't stay quiet anymore. This pattern has been going on your entire life." I sat down slowly, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. 32 years of moments flashed through my mind. Every time it'd been overlooked, every achievement that had gone uncelebrated, every time I'd told myself it didn't matter. "Why does he get everything?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Diane was quiet for a long moment. "Your mother has invested her entire identity in being the devoted mother who sacrifices everything for her struggling son. Your independence, your success, it threatens that narrative. If you can achieve everything without her help, what does that make her? Your brother's constant need for rescue validates her purpose." After we hung up, I sat in my apartment as the realization washed over me in waves. They didn't celebrate my success because my success proved I didn't need them. Carson's failures, his constant struggles, his need for rescue and support, these gave my parents purpose and identity. I was the child who proved they'd done something right by raising an independent, successful person. But that success had to be downplayed so it didn't overshadow Carson's need for them. My achievements were acknowledged just enough to claim credit but never celebrated enough to take attention from the child who actually needed them. I'd spent 32 years trying to earn love that was never actually available to me, performing for an audience that would never applaud because my performance proved I didn't need them. The cruelest part was that I'd internalized their message so deeply I'd believed I was selfish for wanting them there, that I was being childish for needing my parents at my graduation. But I wasn't childish for wanting love. I wasn't selfish for wanting to be seen. I was just human, and they'd failed me in the most fundamental way parents can fail a child. 1 week after my graduation, I received a text from Mom that made my stomach drop. "Family dinner tonight at 6. We need to talk. Be there." The phrasing wasn't a request. It was a command, the same tone she'd used when I was a teenager who'd broken curfew. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to delete the message and pretend I'd never seen it. But another part, the part that still held on to a thread of hope, wondered if maybe they'd realized what they'd done. Maybe this was the apology I'd been waiting for. Maybe they'd finally understood the magnitude of their betrayal. I showed up at my parents' house at 5:55, parking on the street because Carson's truck was already in the driveway. That should have been my first warning. When Mom opened the door, her smile was tight and her hug was perfunctory. "Come in, we're all in the living room." All. The word hung in the air like a threat. I walked into the living room to find it arranged like an intervention. My parents sat on the couch, Carson in the armchair to the side, all three of them facing the empty chair clearly meant for me. Nobody was holding drinks or snacks. This wasn't a family dinner. This was an ambush. I remained standing. "What's going on?" Dad gestured to the empty chair. "Sit down, Margot. We need to discuss your behavior." My behavior. Not their broken promise. Not their choice to abandon me on one of the most important days of my life. But my behavior. I sat down slowly, feeling like I was walking into a trap but unable to turn back. Mom folded her hands in her lap, the gesture she always made when she was about to say something she considered important. "We've all been very concerned about how you've been acting this past week. You've been passive-aggressive, hostile, and frankly, quite hurtful." I stared at her. My behavior? Are you serious right now? Carson leaned forward with a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "See? This is exactly what we're talking about. You can't even have a calm conversation without getting defensive and dramatic." I turned to look at him. Really look at him. My 29-year-old brother who still lived in our parents' basement, who'd gone through 7 jobs in 3 years, who threw parties to celebrate promotions from positions he'd be fired from within months, and somehow, I was the problem. Dad cleared his throat. "We understand you're disappointed that we couldn't make your ceremony. But life doesn't always go according to plan. You're an adult and you need to accept that and move forward. What we can't accept is you punishing us and your brother for a scheduling conflict." The word scheduling conflict hit me like a slap. 8 years of my life, reduced to a scheduling conflict. "You promised," I said, my voice shaking. "For 6 months, you promised you'd be there. You bought an outfit specifically for my graduation. You confirmed 2 days before. This wasn't a scheduling conflict. You made a choice." Mom's eyes filled with tears, the weapon shed always used most effectively. "How can you say that? We explained that Carson needed us. You're acting like we did this to hurt you deliberately. We had to make an impossible choice and now you're punishing us for it. Do you have any idea how much you've hurt me this week? I've cried myself to sleep every night. I felt the familiar guilt starting to creep in. The programming of 32 years telling me to back down, to apologize, to make Mom feel better. But something had broken inside me that day standing alone in my regalia, and I couldn't put it back together. "What about how much you hurt me?" Dad stood up, his patience clearly exhausted. "We don't owe you a graduation appearance, Margot. We raised you, clothed you, fed you, put a roof over your head for 18 years. Everything we did was out of love and now you're throwing it back in our faces over one missed event." Carson pulled out his phone and I watched him start recording. "Say that again, Margot. Tell them how they're such terrible parents. Go ahead." I stood up. "You missed my doctoral graduation for a pool party. That's not an opinion or an exaggeration. That's exactly what happened." Mom composed herself quickly, the tears drying as her voice took on an edge. "We've apologized multiple times." "No," I interrupted. "You've explained. You've justified. You've made excuses. But you've never once said I'm sorry we hurt you. You've never acknowledged that what you did was wrong." Carson was still filming, grinning now. "This is gold. Everyone's going to see how crazy you are." I turned to him. "You really think this makes you look good? You're 29 years old and your pool party was more important than your sister's doctorate?" His grin disappeared. "At least I have a life. At least people want to celebrate with me. You're just jealous that Mom and Dad actually love me." The room went silent. Nobody corrected him. Nobody said of course we love Margot too. Nobody said anything at all. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I walked toward the door, but Mom's voice stopped me. "Wait, we got you a makeup gift. We wanted to do something special to show we care." She handed me a small gift bag. Inside was a $25 Olive Garden gift card. I stared at it, then at them. For 8 years of doctoral work, for a lifetime of being second best, For all the times I'd swallowed my hurt and smiled through their favoritism, I was worth $25. Meanwhile, Carson got a $2,000 watch for a promotion to assistant manager at a car dealership. I started laughing, not polite laughter, but the kind that comes from somewhere deep and broken, the kind that sounds almost like crying. This is what I'm worth to you? $25? Mom looked offended. That's very ungrateful, Margot. We don't owe you anything. We've given you everything and this is how you repay us? Dad moved to comfort Mom, his arm around her shoulders. Look what you've done. Your mother is upset. Are you happy now? Carson stood up, still filming. You're so ungrateful. They paid for your state school. I had a full scholarship, I said quietly. They didn't pay a penny. But they paid $80,000 for your private school where you graduated with a 2.1 GPA. His face flushed red. That's not fair. I have learning differences. And I have achievements, I replied. Where's the celebration for those? Dad's voice rose. Enough. This conversation is over. You need to leave and think about how you're going to apologize to this family. I held up the gift card. I'm keeping this. Not because I want it, but because I want to remember exactly what you think I'm worth. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away. Behind me, I could see them standing in the doorway, confused and angry that I wasn't playing my assigned role anymore. When I got home, I had a Venmo request from Mom for $350. The description read, "Your share of family dinner plus emotional distress." I blocked all of them. Within 24 hours, Carson's video from the intervention had spread through our extended family and parents' social circles like wildfire. Had edited it carefully, cutting out all context, making it look like I'd shown up to their house and started screaming about how terrible they were for no reason. The clip showed me saying, "You missed my doctoral graduation for a pool party," but cut out everything before and after, making it seem like I was being dramatic about something trivial. His caption read, "When your sister throws a tantrum because she's not the center of attention for 5 minutes." The comments section filled with people I'd known my whole life taking his side. Margot always was difficult as a child. Your poor parents, they don't deserve this. Some people are never satisfied no matter how much you do for them. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years felt qualified to judge me. Mom's friends from her book club left long comments about what a sweet woman she was and how heartbreaking it must be to have an ungrateful daughter. My phone exploded with messages, none of them supportive. My cousin Jennifer wrote, "I can't believe you embarrassed Aunt Patricia like this. She's been crying for days." A family friend, "After everything your parents did to raise you, this is how you repay them. Shameful." Dad's co-worker whom I'd met exactly twice, "Your parents are saints to put up with your behavior. You should be grateful they still talk to you." Not one person asked for my side of the story. Not one person questioned why I might be upset. The narrative had been written and I was the villain. The ungrateful daughter who couldn't appreciate her loving family. I sat in my apartment watching my reputation disintegrate in real time, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. Then my phone rang with grandmother's number. I almost didn't answer, assuming she was calling to lecture me too. But something made me pick up. "Margot, sweetheart, I saw Carson's video. That's not the whole story, is it?" Her voice was gentle, not accusing, and something in me broke open. I told her everything. Not just the graduation, but the lifetime of being overlooked, the constant favoritism, the way my achievements were dismissed while Carson's mediocrity was celebrated. I told her about the gift card, about the intervention, about Mom deleting my comment, and then charging me for emotional distress. I cried through most of it, ugly crying that left me gasping for air, years of suppressed pain pouring out all at once. Grandmother listened to everything without interrupting. When I finally ran out of words, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. "I'm ashamed of my son. Your father wasn't raised like this. Your mother changed him, turned him into someone who can't see what's right in front of him. But that doesn't excuse his choices. He's a grown man and he chose to fail you. They both did. She asked if she could talk to my parents, if I'd give her permission to intervene. I said yes, knowing it probably wouldn't change anything but grateful that at least one person believed me. My work life continued in a separate reality from the family drama. My postdoctoral research position at the hospital was demanding and fulfilling. Exactly what I'd worked so hard to achieve. I was part of a team working on groundbreaking neuroscience research, the kind of work that could actually change lives. But none of my family knew about it or cared. The day after Carson's video went viral in our family circles, my colleagues threw me a belated graduation party in the hospital break room. They'd decorated with streamers and brought a cake that said, "Congratulations, Dr. Sinclair," in elaborate frosting. Dr. Patterson, my mentor, raised a plastic cup of sparkling cider. To Margot, who earned every bit of this achievement through sheer determination and brilliance, "We're lucky to have you on our team." Everyone clapped and I burst into tears right there, overwhelmed by being seen and celebrated by people who had no obligation to care about me. After the party, Dr. Patterson pulled me aside. "Where was your family, Margot? You mentioned they were coming." I'd maintained the fiction with him until that moment, but standing there with frosting on a paper plate and kindness in his eyes, I couldn't lie anymore. "They chose my brother's pool party over my graduation ceremony." His face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, anger, settling finally on sadness. "I'm so sorry. You deserved better than that. You deserve people who show up." A colleague named Simone overheard our conversation. She approached cautiously after Dr. Patterson walked away. "My family's like that too," she said quietly. "Golden child syndrome. Have you heard of it?" I shook my head and she pulled out her phone, sending me links to articles about narcissistic family dynamics, scapegoat and golden child roles, the psychological patterns that keep these systems functioning. I spent that night reading everything she sent, and with each article, pieces of my life clicked into place, like a puzzle I'd been trying to solve for 32 years. The golden child, the articles explained, can do no wrong. They receive disproportionate praise, resources, and attention regardless of their actual achievements. The scapegoat child is blamed for family problems, held to impossible standards, and given minimal support regardless of their accomplishments. Parents maintain this dynamic because the golden child's dependence validates their role as rescuers and providers, while the scapegoat's independence allows them to take credit without providing actual support. My success was supposed to reflect well on my parents without requiring any effort from them. Carson's failures gave them purpose and identity as devoted parents sacrificing everything for their struggling child. My independence threatened their narrative. If I could achieve a doctorate without their help, what did that say about their parenting? But if Carson needed constant rescuing, it proved they were essential, devoted, selfless. I wasn't being paranoid or dramatic. This was a recognized psychological pattern, and I'd been living it my entire life. Simone texted me the next day. "What are you going to do now?" I stared at the message for a long time. What was I going to do? I'd spent 32 years trying to earn love from people who were structurally incapable of giving it to me in the way I needed. I'd sacrificed my self-worth on the altar of their approval, and it had gotten me nowhere. Standing alone at my graduation had been the culmination of a lifetime of being unseen, but it had also been a revelation. I didn't need their approval to be worthy. My doctorate was real whether they acknowledged it or not. My achievements stood on their own merit. I texted Simone back. "I'm done begging for crumbs." Grandmother called that afternoon. "I spoke to your father. He was defensive and dismissive. Your mother refused to get on the phone with me." Carson called me afterward and screamed at me for taking sides and told me I was a bitter old woman who didn't understand modern families. She sighed heavily. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I tried." I thanked her for believing me, for being the one person in my family who saw my pain and validated it. That conversation marked a turning point. I started documenting everything, not for revenge but for validation. Every missed event, every dismissal, every instance of blatant favoritism. The list grew longer than I expected, spanning decades. Seeing it all, written out, proved I wasn't crazy or oversensitive. This had really happened. All of it. 2 months after my graduation, the family silence broke. Not with an apology, but with a demand. Carson had gotten himself fired from the car dealership job they'd celebrated so enthusiastically at the pool party. The reason was serious. Had been caught falsifying sales numbers to boost his commission, essentially committing fraud. The dealership was considering pressing charges, which meant Carson was facing potential jail time. My parents' solution to this crisis was, predictably, to mobilize all family resources, which now apparently included me, despite the fact that they'd spent 2 months pretending I didn't exist. Dad called my number, which ID unblocked temporarily after grandmother asked me to in case of actual emergencies. His voice had that forced casual tone he used when he wanted something. "Margot, we need to talk about your brother. He's in some legal trouble and he needs help from someone with connections and education. You know people from the university, lawyers and such. We need you to reach out and see who can help him." I sat at my desk at the hospital, staring at my research notes while my father asked me to save the brother who'd filmed my breakdown and posted it online for mockery. "I'm a doctor of neuroscience, not a lawyer," I said evenly. "I study brain patterns in dementia patients. I don't have legal connections." Dad's voice sharpened with impatience. "But you went to a prestigious university. You must know someone who knows someone. This is serious, Margot. Carson could go to jail. Family helps family." The phrase "family helps family" coming from the man who'd chosen a pool party over my doctorate ceremony was almost funny. Almost. "Did family matter when you missed my graduation?" I asked. The line went silent for 3 seconds. "Are you still holding on to that?" "That was months ago, Margot. This is Carson's future we're talking about. This is serious. And my 8 years of work weren't serious?" Dad's patience snapped. "Fine. Be selfish. When your brother is sitting in a jail cell, it'll be on your conscience. I hope you can live with that." He hung up before I could respond. 5 minutes later, Mom texted, "Please help your brother. He's terrified and he made a mistake." "Haven't you ever made mistakes? We forgave you for making a scene at family dinner. The least you can do is forgive him this and help." The message was a masterpiece of manipulation. My scene at their intervention was equivalent to Carson's fraud. My asking for recognition was the same as him breaking the law. In their world, these things balanced out. I didn't respond. An hour later, Carson texted me directly for the first time since he'd drunkenly called me a loser. "Look, I'm sorry about the graduation thing, okay? I should have been more supportive. Can you help me now? I know you know people who can make this go away." It wasn't an apology, it was a transaction. "Say the words she needs to hear so she'll do what we need." I typed back, "Are you sorry you dismissed my achievement, or sorry you need something?" The response came quickly. "Why do you have to make everything so difficult?" I said, "I'm sorry. What more do you want? A parade?" I stared at my phone. At this man who was 2 years younger than me, but had never once been held accountable for anything in his life. "I want genuine remorse," I wrote back. "I want recognition of the pain you all caused. I want acknowledgement that what you did was wrong." Carson's response was exactly what I expected. "Jesus Christ, get therapy. I'm about to be arrested and you want to talk about your feelings? You're so selfish it's unbelievable." I blocked his number. The family group chat, which I'd apparently been re-added to without my knowledge, exploded with activity. "Mom, Margot has refused to help her own brother in his darkest hour. After everything this family has done for her, this is how she repays us. Dad, we raised her better than this." I'm disappointed beyond words. Aunt Diane, bless her, jumped in. "What exactly have you done for her? Missed her graduation? Given her a $25 gift card for her doctorate? Mom. This is between immediate family, Diane. Stay out of it. Grandmother. The girl earned her doctorate and you went to a pool party. Now you want favors? Dad. Not this again. Can we please focus on the actual crisis at hand? Carson. Everyone stop. Margot's made her choice. She's not family anymore. She's made that perfectly clear. I watched it all unfold in real time, taking screenshots but not participating. Then Mom's final salvo arrived. Fine. Don't help. But don't come crawling back when you need US someday. You're on your own now. I typed one response before removing myself from the group permanently. I've always been on my own. That was the problem. At work, I threw myself into research with an intensity that bordered on obsession. 12, 14, 16-hour days in the lab, running experiments, analyzing data, writing papers. Simone noticed immediately. You're avoiding something. I admitted the family situation had escalated, that they'd asked me to fix Carson's legal problems and I'd refused. Simone nodded slowly. Good. Let it burn. You didn't set the fire. You don't have to put it out. She introduced me to her therapist, Dr. Yolanda Chen, who specialized in family trauma and narcissistic abuse recovery. I made an appointment, skeptical that talking to a stranger would change anything but desperate enough to try. In our first session, I told Dr. Chen everything. She listened with focused attention, occasionally taking notes, never interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment before speaking. You've spent your entire life searching for love in a house that only had scraps to offer. They trained you to accept crumbs and call it a feast, to be grateful for the bare minimum. Your graduation wasn't the first betrayal. It was simply the one you couldn't rationalize away anymore. Her words hit me like a physical blow because they were so precisely true. Every other disappointment in my life, I'd found a way to excuse. They were busy with Carson. They didn't understand how important it was. They loved me in their own way. But standing alone in my regalia while they posted party photos, that was undeniable. That was a choice so stark I couldn't pretend it was anything else. What do I do now? I asked. Dr. Chen leaned forward slightly. You grieve. You grieve the parents you needed but never had. You grieve the childhood you deserved but didn't receive. And then you build a life where you're not constantly trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Over the next several sessions, we worked through layers of conditioning and trauma I hadn't even recognized as trauma. The belief that my needs were burdensome. The conviction that love had to be earned through achievement. The deep-seated fear that I was fundamentally unlovable and that was why they couldn't show up for me. Dr. Chen helped me see that their failure wasn't about my worthiness. It was about their capacity. Some parents simply cannot love beyond their own needs. And no amount of achievement or accommodation will change that. 6 months after my graduation, my research team made a significant breakthrough in understanding dementia progression. The findings were substantial enough to warrant publication in one of the most prestigious medical journals in the field. I was listed as the lead researcher. The university's public relations department decided the story was newsworthy and arranged media interviews. Suddenly, my name and face were everywhere in local news. Connecticut native makes medical breakthrough. Rising star in neuroscience research. Dr. Margot Sinclair's discovery could change dementia treatment. The university posted a feature story on their website with photos of me in the lab. Local television stations interviewed me. Medical blogs picked up the story. My professional achievements were finally getting the recognition they deserved, just from sources other than my family. For about 3 days, I basked in the validation of having my work acknowledged publicly. Then my parents saw it. The messages started flooding in. Mom, I just saw you on the Channel 8 morning news. I'm so proud. Why didn't you tell us about this amazing breakthrough? Dad, my daughter, the famous doctor and scientist. I've been telling everyone at the golf club about you. They're so impressed. Carson, congrats on the research thing, I guess. Extended family members I hadn't heard from in years suddenly felt compelled to reach out. "Your parents must be so proud." They commented on every article shared to social media. And Mom, in a display of revisionist history so blatant it was almost impressive, responded to each one. "We always knew Margot would do great things. We supported her every step of the way through her education. So blessed to be her parents." She posted old photos from my childhood with captions like, "Always knew our girl was destined for greatness. So proud of the woman she's become." No mention of the missed graduation. No acknowledgement of the months of silence. Just sudden, performative pride now that my achievements were public and reflected well on them. Dad's Facebook post was even more egregious. "Proud father moment. My daughter, Dr. Margot Sinclair, is making headlines with her groundbreaking medical research. We've always believed in her potential." The comments section filled with congratulations and people asking about my graduation, assuming they'd been there. Dad liked every single comment without correcting anyone's assumptions. He let people believe he'd been a supportive, present father when the truth was he'd chosen beer and burgers over my doctorate ceremony. I sat in my apartment watching them rewrite history in real time, commodifying my achievement for social capital, and felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not pain, just a vast emptiness where my hope for their love used to live. They wanted the reflected glory of my success without having done any of the work to support me through the struggle. They wanted to play proud parents now that there was an audience to perform for. Simone found me in the hospital break room staring at my phone. "Are you going to call them out publicly?" she asked. I considered it. I could screenshot the text messages where they'd dismissed my graduation. I could post the gift card photo. I could show the world who they really were behind the proud parent facade. But then I realized something crucial. That would mean I still cared about their opinion. That would mean their validation or lack thereof still mattered to me. "No," I said finally. "Calling them out would mean they still have power over me. I'm done giving them that." The university announced an international medical conference where it'd been invited to present our research findings. The invitation was prestigious, exactly the kind of opportunity that could define a career trajectory. The invitation allowed for a +1 guest to attend. Before I could even process the honor, my parents had already assumed they were invited. Mom called, her voice bright with excitement. "Margot, congratulations on the conference invitation. When is it exactly?" "Well, need to book flights and a hotel." "This is so exciting." The presumption in her voice, the assumption that of course she'd be welcome after everything, was staggering. "I'm taking Dr. Patterson," I said calmly. "Has been my mentor through this entire process, and actually supported my work." Silence on the other end. Then Mom's voice, small and shocked. "But we're your parents, Margot. Parents should be there for these important moments." The irony was so thick I could barely breathe through it. "Parents show up," I said. "You didn't. Dr. Patterson did. He gets the seat." Mom's voice shifted from shock to guilt-tripping, her most reliable weapon. "One mistake and you're going to cut us out of your life forever? That's incredibly cruel. We're your family." "It wasn't one mistake," I replied. "It was 32 years of them. The graduation was just the first one I couldn't rationalize away or make excuses for." That was the moment I finally saw the pattern clearly. Dad took the phone from Mom, his voice hard with that particular anger he reserved for when I wasn't being obedient. "We raised you, Margot. We gave you life. Put a roof over your head, food on your table. You owe us respect and gratitude. You owe us more than this cold indifference." Something in me snapped. Not into anger, but into clarity. "You performed the bare minimum legal requirements of parenthood, and act like I should be eternally grateful. You raised me with food and shelter, yes. You also raised me to believe my achievements didn't matter, that my needs were burdensome, that I would always come second to Carson. Every achievement I earned completely alone. Every setback I survived without you. You were never there when it actually mattered. You don't get to show up now that there's glory to bask in. Dad's voice rose. After everything we sacrificed, what did you sacrifice? I interrupted. Specifically, tell me one thing you sacrificed for me that you didn't also owe me as parents. One thing beyond the minimum legal requirement. The line went quiet. He couldn't answer because there wasn't an answer. Everything they'd done for Carson, the emotional support, the financial backing, the unwavering belief in his potential, they'd never extended to me. Carson called within minutes, his voice sharp with familiar annoyance. You're making Mom cry. Again. After they literally spent thousands of dollars raising you, taking care of you your whole life, this is how you repay them? I laughed. I actually laughed. They spent $80,000 on your private school education that you barely passed. They spent $0 on mine because I had a full scholarship. Want to compare the financial investment they made in each of us? Carson sputtered. That's not you can't just you think you're so much better than everyone because you have some fancy degree. I don't think I'm better, I said calmly. I just finally stopped thinking I was worse. That's what you all could never handle. Me believing I deserved equal treatment. Me refusing to stay small so you could feel big. I hung up before he could respond. The extended family mobilization began immediately. Uncle Frank called. Your parents are absolutely heartbroken, Margot. They say you've cut them off completely. They missed my doctoral graduation to go to Carson's pool party. I stated simply. Uncle Frank was quiet. Is that really their side of the story? He finally asked. That's not a side. That's what happened. They confirmed attendance for 6 months, then canceled the day of the ceremony because Carson decided to have a last-minute party. That's objective fact. Uncle Frank's voice changed. I didn't know that detail. Your mother made it sound like there was some kind of emergency. The emergency was Carson wanting attention, I said. And they chose him over me, like they always have. More family members called over the next few days, some believing me, some siding with my parents, most just wanting the drama to end so family gatherings wouldn't be awkward. I stopped caring about their opinions. I'd spent 32 years caring desperately what everyone thought of me, performing and achieving and trying to be worthy. Now I was done performing. The conference arrived and Dr. Patterson accompanied me to present our research. Standing in front of hundreds of medical professionals from around the world, I presented our findings on dementia progression. The response was overwhelming. Questions, interest, collaboration requests. At the end, the moderator led a standing ovation. Dr. Patterson, sitting in the front row, had tears in his eyes. Afterward, he hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you, Margot. You've earned every bit of this success. Those words, I'm proud of you, spoken sincerely by someone who'd actually witnessed my work, meant more than 1,000 posts from parents who wanted credit without effort. That evening, there was an awards ceremony where I won the Emerging Researcher Award for scientists under 35. In my acceptance speech, I thanked Dr. Patterson, my research team, my therapist, my colleague Simone. Thank you to everyone who showed up when it mattered, who supported me through the difficult days, who celebrated my wins, and helped me through my losses. Thank you for seeing me. I didn't mention my parents. Their absence from my speech was louder than any words could have been. The speech was recorded and went viral in academic circles, shared by universities and research institutions. My parents saw it. Mom texted, "You thanked everyone but your own parents. We gave you life and you couldn't even mention us." I responded simply, "I thanked everyone who helped me. That wasn't you." Then I blocked her number. I blocked Dad's number. I blocked Carson's number. I blocked every family member who'd sent me lectures about forgiveness and moving on without ever acknowledging what I was supposed to be forgiving. I kept grandmother's number and Aunt Diane's number. Everyone else, gone. The freedom was intoxicating. 1 year after my graduation ceremony that no one attended, my life had transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined. My career was thriving beyond my expectations. I was leading my own research team now, had published multiple papers in prestigious journals, and was being courted by universities across the country for faculty positions. But more than the professional success, it built something it never had before: a real support system. My colleagues had become genuine friends. Simone and I met weekly for coffee and honest conversations about family trauma and healing. Dr. Chen continued to help me unpack decades of conditioning. Grandmother visited every Sunday for brunch, the one family member who'd consistently chosen to see me. And I'd started dating someone, another researcher named Marcus from the cardiology department, who celebrated my wins without jealousy and supported me through difficult days without keeping score. My studio apartment was long gone, replaced with a beautiful one-bedroom condo I'd purchased myself. The walls weren't covered in research papers anymore, but with art I'd chosen. Photos of friends, evidence of a life being lived rather than just survived. I'd started painting as a hobby, something I'd wanted to try for years but never had time for when I was pouring everything into achieving enough to be worthy of love. Now I painted for the simple joy of creating something, with no audience to perform for, no parents to impress. The paintings were mediocre at best, but they were mine, and that was enough. Therapy with Dr. Chen had moved from crisis management to genuine growth. "You spent 32 years trying to earn love that was never actually available," Shed told me in one session. "Some parents can't love beyond their own needs, beyond their own narratives about themselves. Your mother needed to be the devoted martyr mother. Your father needed to be the generous provider. Your success without their help didn't fit either narrative. Carson's constant need for rescue did. They couldn't celebrate you without dismantling the identity they'd built around being his saviors." The psychological framework helped, but the real healing came from accepting that their failure wasn't my fault and nothing I achieved would have changed it. I could have cured cancer and they would have found a reason to miss the ceremony if Carson needed them that day. The problem was never my worthiness. The problem was their capacity. One afternoon, exactly 1 year and 2 weeks after my graduation, my doorbell rang unexpectedly. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents standing there with shopping bags and nervous smiles. I didn't open the door immediately. I stood there watching them shift their weight, checking their phones, looking around my hallway, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no hope, no anxiety. Just calm, clear indifference. Finally, I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "What do you want?" I asked through the half-open door. Mom's smile was tentative, fragile. "We've missed you so much, sweetheart. We brought gifts. Can we please come in and talk?" Dad held up the shopping bags. "We want to make things right, Margot. You're our daughter, and we love you. Can't we please just talk about this?" The word "this" was doing so much heavy lifting in that sentence, reducing everything to a vague conflict rather than a specific pattern of harm. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked. Mom's eyes were already filling with tears. The weapon Shed always wielded most effectively. "About reconciliation. About being a family again. We've been so sad without you in our lives. It doesn't feel right." "Where was this energy on my graduation day?" I asked calmly. Dad sighed heavily. "We've apologized for that, Margot. How many times do we have to say we're sorry?" "You've never apologized," I corrected. "Not once. You've explained, justified, made excuses, but you've never said 'I'm sorry we hurt you. What we did was wrong." Mom tried a different approach. "I've cried every single day missing you. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" Dr. Chen's voice echoed in my mind. "Narcissists cry when their supply is cut off, not because they recognize their harm." I looked at Mom's tears, Dad's frustrated expression, the shopping bags full of gifts meant to buy forgiveness, and saw them clearly for the first time without the filter of desperate hope. "You're crying because I stopped providing what you needed from me," I said quietly. "Not because you understand what you did to me." They didn't understand. I could see the confusion in their faces. Before either could respond, Carson appeared from the stairwell. "Of course he did. This was a coordinated effort. Let them in, Margot. Stop being so dramatic. I didn't move from my position in the doorway. This is my home. You're not entitled to enter it just because you showed up. Carson's face flushed with familiar annoyance. Always so dramatic about everything. They're your parents. Let them in. Says the man whose pool party was more important than my doctorate, I replied evenly. Dad tried his authority voice again, the one that used to make me scramble to obey. Can we please move past this? You're clinging to one incident and using it to punish us endlessly. It wasn't one incident, I said. It was a culmination. And I'm not clinging to it, I'm learning from it. Mom reached out as if to touch my arm through the doorway. We did our best with you, Margot. We weren't perfect parents, but we tried. Your best wasn't good enough, I said simply. And I've finally accepted that. I've stopped waiting for you to be people you're incapable of being. I looked at each of them. These people had shaped my first 32 years but wouldn't define the rest. You taught me that my accomplishments don't matter. That my needs are burdensome. That I'll always come second. You taught me that love is conditional on staying small and not threatening your narratives about yourselves. Those were painful lessons, but I've finally unlearned all of them. That's my real achievement, not the doctorate. Learning that your failure to love me properly wasn't about my worth. Mom was crying harder now. How can you say we didn't love you? You loved the version of me that didn't need anything from you, I replied. The independent one who succeeded without help so you could take credit. You didn't love the version that needed you at her graduation, that wanted recognition and celebration. That version was inconvenient. Dad's face was red now, his voice rising. You can't just cut off your family, that's not how this works. I can and I did, I said calmly. And I'm happier now than I've been in my entire life. I don't need you anymore. More importantly, I don't want the scraps you're offering. I deserve more, and I've found it elsewhere. Carson stepped closer. Aggressive posturing, meant to intimidate. You're going to regret this when we're gone and you're all alone. I looked at him. This grown man who'd never been held accountable for anything. And smiled. I'm not alone. I have people who actually show up for me. You're the ones who are going to regret missing my life. Not the other way around. I stepped back and closed the door. Not slammed, just closed it firmly, and locked it. Through the peephole, I watched them stand there in confusion. They'd expected tears, apologies, desperate reconciliation. They'd expected me to still be that little girl searching for their approval. They didn't know how to process this new version of me who'd stopped searching. After several minutes, they left. I watched them walk down the hallway, get into the elevator, disappear from view. Then I went back to my life, the one I'd built without them. 3 months later, an invitation arrived in my mailbox. Heavy cardstock, expensive printing, Carson's wedding. He was marrying his girlfriend of 9 months, a woman I'd never met. The invitation included a note from Mom. Please come. It would mean so much to Carson and to us. Let's put the past behind us and be a family again on this special day. I stared at the invitation for a long time. In the old version of myself, I would have agonized over this decision, worried about what people would think, tried to find a way to attend without causing drama. The new version of me took exactly 30 seconds to decide. I sent a card with a simple message. Congratulations on your marriage. I won't be attending. I wish you happiness. Mom called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was predictable. Margot. It's your brother's wedding. His wedding. This is exactly the kind of event where family shows up. Please reconsider. He wants you there. I deleted the voicemail without responding. The weekend of Carson's wedding, I was at another medical conference presenting research. I spent the day discussing breakthrough findings with colleagues from around the world. Networking, making connections, living the life I'd built. My social media showed photos from Carson's wedding that evening. Mom and Dad crying happy tears during the ceremony, their faces glowing with pride and joy for Carson. The same parents who couldn't manage tears of pride at my graduation. I looked at the photos and felt nothing. No jealousy, no pain, no wistfulness. Just indifference. They'd made their choices and I'd made mine. In my office at the hospital, I had one framed photo on my desk. Not a family photo of the four of us from some holiday pretending we were normal. Not my parents. Not Carson. The photo showed me and Dr. Patterson on my graduation day, both of us in full regalia, huge, genuine smiles on our faces. He'd come to find me after the ceremony when he realized my family hadn't shown, and insisted we take a proper graduation photo together. "You earned this and it deserves to be documented," Head said. That photo reminded me every day that one person showing up with genuine support meant more than a dozen people offering conditional approval. A colleague stopped by my office and noticed the photo. "Is that your graduation? Where's your family?" she asked innocently. I smiled, and it wasn't a sad smile or a bitter one. It was genuine. My real family was there. The people who matter showed up. She must have sensed there was a story, but didn't push. After she left, I sat at my desk, looking at the photo and thought about what I'd tell my younger self if I could. I'd tell her that some parents can't celebrate who you are because they can only tolerate who you're willing to shrink into. I'd tell her that their inability to see her worth wasn't evidence of her worthlessness, but evidence of their blindness. I'd tell her to stop performing for an audience that would never applaud, and start living for herself. I'd tell her that the day she stops seeking their approval is the day she'll finally be free. An email notification pulled me from my thoughts. Another conference invitation. This time, as a keynote speaker at an international symposium. I accepted immediately, already thinking about Marcus coming with me, making a vacation out of it, living my life on my own terms. My parents had promised to attend my graduation and then chose my brother's pool party instead. That betrayal had shattered something fundamental in me. But from those shattered pieces, I'd built something stronger. I'd built a life where my worth wasn't determined by their validation, where my achievements were celebrated by people who'd actually earned the right to celebrate them, where I took up space instead of apologizing for existing. I'd chosen my peace over their conditional approval. That was the best decision I'd ever made. Dr. Margot Sinclair, 33 years old, finally free. Have you ever been overlooked by your family for someone else? Have you ever felt like your achievements didn't matter because the people who should have celebrated them weren't paying attention? Drop your story in the comments below because you're not alone. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss more stories about choosing yourself when your family won't choose you. And share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not selfish for wanting to be seen. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your worth isn't determined by who shows up for you, but by the life you build when you finally stop waiting for permission to take up space. You deserve better, and it's okay to choose yourself. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, sometimes the family you choose means more than the family you were born into.